Is it your closing day now?
No, it is another day.
It's even one more day, tomorrow. The famous tomorrow, the famous Sunday. Yeah, as the leader of the local, it's not the local government, what's lokalutvalg?
Community.
No, not at all. Yeah, I'm very glad to see so many brilliant people out here. Thank you for coming, and thank you for choosing Fleinvær for this session. We were together in this room today, also the concerts here. Practical things, you see where the exits are in case fire. We have outdoor loos here at Fleinvær. Toilets is behind there. What else to mention? The public cafe starts at 12 and ends at 2. That means that you will see some locals, meet them, greet them, smile, ask, and they will answer. And yeah, looking forward to a very exciting day. Best of luck, coffee. I have several hats here now, so I will make you more coffee. Yeah. And you haven't had your tea. Someone is trying to poison you. You should know this.
Yeah.
He's sitting here. Well, he found some.
Yeah, but I still don't have water.
No, complain. That's fine.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Arnstein. No, you can sit. It is on. It is on. You don't have to touch it.
Okay, sure. Okay. Ja, da vil jeg få lov å ønske velkommen. I say some few sentences in Norwegian first, if it's okay, for our international guests. For lov å ønske velkommen til et prosjekt som vi har kalt for Heritage Dialogues, kanskje på norsk kulturarvdialoger. Det handler om hvilke ressurser og kunnskap vi har fra vår historie så kan ha en mening i fremtiden. Fremtiden er det eneste som eksisterer, og hvordan kan vi sikre en god, bærekraftig og klimavennlig fremtid. Så vi møtes gjennom internasjonale fora som vi arbeider, og spesielt gjennom ICOMOS, som er verdensarvorganisasjon, som er 17 000 medlemmer på verdensplan som er med, som er ulike ekspertiser, alle ulike retninger for kulturarv. Så vi startet i Vestvatn i Fleinvær på søndagen med et seminar om hvitesamisk historie og kultur. Og vi har da denne siste workshopen her, og i mellomtiden har vi vært på Ljønes i Skjærstad og på Givær. Vi er veldig glad for å få lov å komme hit til Fleinvær, og også for at gjennom arbeidet på Fleinvær så har det jo løftet mange perspektiv. Så folk på og knyttet til Fleinvær har jo løftet mange perspektiv knyttet til naturforvaltning, kulturarvforvaltning og i fremtiden skal være i små øysamfunn, kystsamfunn. So we are happy to be in Fleinvær, which the people here have, as we will hear more about, has been active in raising questions about how to protect nature and culture together. And we will talk more about that, and we are happy for your activism and the things you try to make and suggest. raises lift the perspective on all the big challenges in our world. So, so that's why that we found out that this is a good place to sum up the week we have been traveling together, discussing with many people. We have total been, I think, including today, we are around 50 people who had small and big lecturers. Vi har gjennom denne veka det til sammen rundt 50 personer som har holdt små og store innlegg og diskutert. Så vi håper at det skal komme noe ut av det for til fremtiden. Ja, so we hope it brings something for the future for everyone. Ave?
I'm very happy to be here in Fleinvær Island. I'm very happy for Magne that I some years ago happened to be here. And then we discussed in the barn, in your barn, about cultural landscapes perspectives and how to protect these fragile livelihoods of people. I am Ave Paulus, ICOMOS Estonia president and International Council of Monuments and Sites expert on cultural landscapes, especially coastal cultural landscapes and rights-based approaches, community-based heritage management. And exactly when I went like some years ago to visit Vega Islands, then I met Arnstein Rekke and he told me that Vega, you have everything here in Ivar Island in small scale working. And then I looked at the map. And then I spotted Fleinvær too. And then Arnstein was first time in Fleinvær Island together with me. So exactly this set of Ivar Island and Fleinvær Island, the variety of values, the closeness and the distance. I'm actually so thankful that I am here. And we do hope that these international experts that are here at the moment can contribute with something to find some solutions that might work in the local level as well as in more international perspective. So I'm very thankful to be here. I'm very thankful to Magne and I'm very thankful to Howard and all of you who are here. And I'm very thankful that you bring us your stories of Fleinvær Island.
Okay. Welcome here. My name is Magne Jensen. I'm one of few inhabitants, regular inhabitants in Fleinvær. I think we are less than 10. I lived here all my life, so I followed this time lapse from the high times of Fleinvær, when the electricity come here and everything looks very fine. But yeah, I'm a fisherman, so I'm a little farmer and have some eider duck projects. In my lifetime, everything is really reduced with 90%. Some new species, some new plants is arriving, but mostly, and especially for birds and seabirds, that was dominating part of Fleinvær. They are gone, mostly gone. They are on a bed list level. It should be a red alert for everything. It's like the, yeah. So it's a kind of apocalyptic story. And what to do? It's always a lot of ideas, because it's not the birds, just also the people. The permanent people has gone from the same, about 90%. Still, it's a lot of people here, and a lot more noise and distortion of nature, and pressure to the nature, and ideas of, even some of you heard about an idea of Dynamite Island for Solomon. So often we have fights and resistance against fish farming and other idiotic ideas in the situation we are in. Most ideas are, in my experience, very bad. Most ideas about new places for work, new, as I told you, I've been living here all my life, and been fishing here, had farming, followed the ducks and other birds, and it's all nearly all going down. Some new few species is coming, like Fleinvær refugees, like in the sea, and some birds. And the situation in the near sea, like in the nearby area between the islands here, that was a rich fishery when I was with cod special. There is nothing left. So the history is the same. It's very sad. It's it's a tragedy, and it's happened more or less all over. So what to do? We want protection, some kind of national park or something. I think nearly all the regular inhabitants in Fleinvær want that, in fact. I don't know about these people coming here for summer houses, maybe think something else. And I also hope that in the end of this debate that we can say something about this, what in Norwegian we call the elephant in the room, which is capitalism and consumption, what we use. That is the big problem for everything in nature. And in the end, talk to Håvard, making this possible, and thank you to your other. I guess the other people say who they are. Thank you.
Happy to Peter Larsen from the University of Geneva, also worked a long time in conservation issues, both nature and culture, and rights-based approaches. Very happy to be here and to join this conversation. I have the privilege of moderating the roundtable a bit later today.
My name is Hanne Seljesæter. I'm the leader of the Coastal Club, working with traditional boats and coastal culture. In the northern part of Norway, located in...
You have to talk up.
If you can say louder.
Yeah. My name is Hanne Seljesæter. I'm the leader of Kystlaget Salta, the Coastal Club, and we work with concerning traditional boats, coastal culture in this local area.
And I'm Kristine Myrseth. I was imported here 14 years ago. And today I will say something about our work to try to protect Fleinvær. And I have a legal degree, so that is my academic background.
I have a double role. I'm both a local inhabitant. My name is Jonas Jensen, and I'm also educated philosopher of science from the Norwegian Technical University in Trondheim. And I've been teaching introductory philosophy in Tromsø for some years. And I also have a lot of experience in fishing and stuff in this area. So I have a foot in the boat and a foot on the academic club too.
My name is Randi Sjøvik. I'm a retired bureaucrat from the administration of cultural remains in the Finnmark county and in the Sami parliament. And I'm now an active worker in the Fortidsminneforeningen. And more or less active in many areas, and especially since I'm from Finnmark and Vadsø, we are there working hard to get the fish back to the coast. So.
I'm Inger Unstad. I'm from Lofoten, and
now I work as a journalist, but before that I was an architect, or I still am, and working with different houses in the northern part of Norway. And I've been interviewing a lot of people for 30 years and talking about how they build them. So not how they look like, but how they come to be like they are.
Okay, thanks. My name is Marit Myhrvold. I'm from Bodø, but live in Tromsø. I'm a social anthropologist and I'm done very much in cultural heritage, both on the local and the national Nordic level, or from local items to World Heritage sites. So, and I'm very interested in what's important to people. For instance, spirituality and religiosity. I've done a lot of that too. But nowadays I'm mostly preoccupied with the future because I've got a grandson that's 7 weeks.
My name is Arne Bjørheim. I live here. I lived there for 26 years or something like that. I don't have a holiday anymore because I'm a pensionist. Everyone else have a holiday. I'm a musician, have been a musician, but as I said, I'm a pensionist.
My name is Willem Karlsen. I'm a historian, professor at the Nord University in Bodø.
And I'm his wife, Kirsti Nesset. I'm a pediatrician. I work in the hospital. So, but I have interest in this, both the nature and cultural field. So I think it's very important what you what's going on.
My name is Tina Wik. I'm from Finland, living in Stockholm, having my own office there, dealing very much with innovative wooden design and conservation on mostly at the moment state listed buildings. Also here an experience in working with conservation restorations in conflict areas and teaching in very much in more urban design and planning.
I am Marianne Lehtimäki. I'm from Finland, architect working at the Suomenlinna Sveaborg Förvaltningsnämnd and been working also with the Finnish Heritage Agency and as a consultant. And let's say that I like to try to connect heritage with other development projects, so integrate it in. And here I was telling one of these kind of projects, and I think that I'd like to think here the heritage of these islands. You were talking about inhabitants, and I'm thinking that it's very important, not only human inhabitants, but all the inhabitants. And then think that how is this, the visions and the connections of this entity, and then also think of in terms of the risk management, how is our future.
My name is Tim. I work for the County Council of Nordland, and I work in planning. I'm a planner and also social anthropologist. So this is very interesting to participate in and listen to different views and what's people think about the problem which you lift very well and it's very it's not only in Fleinvær we have this problem, we have a problem all over. So no, I'm glad to be here today. Thank you.
You must take the people behind too. Can we, Olga, and then the rest.
My name is Olga Wiśniewska. I'm a historian. I'm representing both Lofoten, where I've been living for half of my life, and I was born in Poland, so I have this outsider perspective. I work now for Kulturdirektoratet, the Culture Directorate of Norway, and I work with culture heritage as a consultant and region contact person for European Council Hub Culture Roads. So that's why I'm here. Culture heritage is what we have, and the future is not the only thing we have.
Frederick.
It's me?
Yes, it's you.
We don't represent anything but ourselves. We have a house in Fleinvær many years. Her mother is from Fleinvær, and we are interested in this meeting, so therefore we are here.
If I can add, you're a long-time member of the Coastal Federation and the National Trust of Norway.
Yeah, and my name is Fleinvær. He's my husband. And I only represent myself. And I look forward to hear what you are thinking about the future. It's very important for this place. So I am happy Magne still stay here.
Yeah, my name is Elin Klik, and I am one of the summer residents here. But also my mother, dear cousins, was born here. And there were 12 siblings, 11. And we also have this house on the Kjønnøya, which is a very exciting place. And we are also worried about the situation of the seabirds, which we have seen being having a bad development these last 10 years, I think. Okay, thank you.
My name is Dane, and I am her husband. But I am born in Widersport, in the mainland. So we have been for 30 years. And like others, we have followed the development of the seabirds at the time. So we are interested, but we are not represented in any organization. Thank you.
My name is Nina. I'm also representing myself, but I'm representing I'm one of the few that lives here permanently. And I've lived here since 1977. I'm not a fisherman, that's why I'm here. But sorry, he's no longer with us, but I'm still living. And I've been fishing together with him for maybe 20 years, half of the year crab fishing, and he was going to look with me, and he was Magne's brother, so, and we live on the same island, and Jonas is my son.
That's my mom, yes.
I'm also very interested in protecting this place, Fleinvær. Interested in bringing boats. There's a discussion about it.
I'm Ingrid Olsen, live in Bodø, but have been visiting Fleinvær over the years.
I'm architecture historian, ICOMOS member, and also a member of the scientific committee of vernacular architecture. I'm working at the Center of Rural Architecture of Estonian Utenääri Museum, and my duty is to help house owners to get good advice how to renovate their homes.
Hello, my name is Tarmo Elvisto. Background both historian and economic, and I came from Estonian Heritage Society to lead one special project info center in Kalamaja Fish House in Tallinn. Our capital has also a small fish, not village but suburb before. But now it's the most elite district, we can say, or one of the most nicest. And we are doing different projects, how connect historical sites with nowadays energy questions and natural materials and community. And also we gave consultation, and my personal consultation background is how to restore things well that they will do next 100 and 200 years.
Yeah, Kai Linde, boat builder from the inland here in Vågland, and I have lived here in the surroundings over 30 years, and I'm often sailing around at the coastline. I'm interested, of course, in traditional boats and traditional buildings, some craftsmen, but I also follow the development and the life at the coastline because I'm quite often here sailing.
My name is Mattis. I am Kai's son.
I am Marissa. I'm from Estonia, from Tallinn. I am a journalist and scriptwriter and TV producer. My deepest interest is architecture and architecture too. During the last 10 years I have made a lot of programs about architecture, about wooden architecture, about landscape architecture, site-specific architecture, and I try to continue this work.
My name is Tarvi Velström, and I am a local fisherman from Estonia. That's it.
I'm Mihkel. I'm an architect specialized in wooden and timber buildings. Also, I'm a fisherman and representing a small island called Ruhnu near Estonia, like a remote place where we have this NGO named Ruhnu Cultural Space, where we are creating a future and discovering the past of the island as well. So just connected to all this island life this way.
Hi, my name is Ular Mark from Estonia. I'm a practicing architect, but I'm also living in a coastline. I'm living in a farm which is hundreds of years old, and there is 8 different storages and houses. So I'm really thinking of these really modern architecture, what I'm doing in as a job, and then these heritage buildings, how to connect them, and mostly because of coastline, I'm also fishing sometimes, and also sailing. So a little bit I'm thinking about this coastline future of the key lies in the sea. Because I'm a sailor, I'm looking it from the seaside. I think it's so much from the sea. What has changed? There is no so much fishermen, there is no much sailing, there is trade is not on the sea. So that's changed the land. I think this is. I'm interested about this contradiction.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you all for the presentation.
say just 2 words about myself. I come from this region, from the inland. I am working a long time with heritage of this region, and also a member of ICOMOS International. And, then we are. Then you can introduce better, maybe. Yeah. Then I will like to give the floor to Peter Biddelar, who will give us an introduction to our talk today. So, welcome, Peter.
Okay, so well, thank you so much. So the idea today is really that we're going to have a dialogue where we're learning more from the experience here, getting a sense of also what the issues, the perceptions of challenges, experiences. Also with things like stewardship and care. When I was listening to you, we heard a lot from Magnus about a challenging situation, but we've also seen already from yesterday experiences and actually also how we actually take care and what the local forms of stewardship, not only things that go bad, as you said, Magnus, but I think there's also lots of things that go well. So I think maybe today is a good moment to reflect about this collectively. And we're already running a little bit slightly behind schedule, but I think that shows also the collective spirit here that we're all together in a conversation. And the idea with the dialogue spirit is to learn from each other and have that exchange. So I don't want to say too much more than actually let's dig into it. No. And I believe that the first talk we're going to have today will be from Christine and Jonas. And how do you want to organize yourself? Do you want to talk?
Yeah, we have planned how to organize it.
Yeah. So again, you've already introduced yourself, so no need to say more than that. I'll hand over the word to you already. And thanks so much for really opening the floor for us.
Thank you, and tusen takk. I will talk a bit, and after that, Christine will talk a bit. So that is our advanced organization. So the title of our thematics of our speech is Nature, Culture, Humans, Rights and Duties in this Interaction. So I will just start with focusing on what I can say something about, and it is this interaction. What's the interaction between humans and nature that creates a culture that preserves knowledge about the landscape where the interaction takes place? This I find very interesting myself. And so I want to talk about the knowledge that the coastal fisherman has and how that knowledge develops in a landscape and in archipelago like this. And then I think both about the landscape under the sea, but also the landscape above the sea. And I want to highlight two aspects of this knowledge that the fisherman has. That the fisherman like my uncle has, that the fisherman like my father has. I have some of it, though not so much as they do. And it's two aspects of this knowledge I want to talk about. And I want to classify the knowledge, both aspects of it that the local fisherman, the coastal fisherman has, as what is in the literature often described as local ecological knowledge. It's possible to define it. It's a very hotly disputed thematic how to define it, but I like this definition here by Philip Backus about local ecological knowledge. And that is this one. A cumulative body of knowledge, practice and belief, evolving by adaptive processes and handed down through generations by cultural transmission about the relationship of living beings, including humans, with one another and with their environment. So what's the first aspect? I think the first aspect of this knowledge is very simple. It's the fact that it is local. So in that sense, it is contrast to scientific knowledge, which is often universal. It concerns general laws and the causes of phenomena, and this knowledge, of course, is very important. But I think the fisherman that uses nature on a specific place to do their daily livelihood can highlight certain aspects of things happening on this particular place. So it's not universal, it concerns what the behavior of the fish in this place, the relation between what the fish do, what the current do, what the birds do. Many things can be said about this, and I'm sure Magne had his knowledge what had the changes that have happened in Fleinvær due to his work on his boat as a fisherman from childhood until now. He has seen the changes because he has been living his work life on the sea. Okay, and this in a sense, there is a similarity between science and this knowledge, this aspect of local ecological knowledge. It can be true or false. It can be right and it can be wrong. That's an important thing about scientific knowledge too. It's either right or wrong, and nature makes it right or wrong. The facts do so. But I want to also highlight another aspect of local ecological knowledge, which is somewhat harder to explain, and therefore even more important, but I'll try. And in this sense, we need to understand what is a concept or description. And that is mental images or practical ways of being that makes what one understandable for the ones who understands it. And that is my claim, that it's a certain knowledge that the fisherman has that is only possible to understand through his practice of fishing. So it cannot easily be translated into other forms of knowledge. It doesn't mean that it is, it doesn't mean to suggest, or this would be another debate, I don't want to participate in it now. I don't mean to suggest that this is constructed knowledge, that it doesn't refer to objects or processes that exist quite independently. But I would say that having a certain conceptual understanding is necessary to have the knowledge. So that's my claim. Okay, so we need an example. I want to give an example since we have a boat builder here, and you know a lot about harbors and stuff. And I want to give an example from a paper that has meant a lot to me, from a philosopher called Jakob Melø, who was a professor at the University of Tromsø. And this paper was called Two Landscapes of Northern Norway. And I want to give this example of the concept of a harbor. What is a harbor? Or a haven. And I will cite. When the fisherman finds a good haven somewhere in this archipelago, like an archipelago like this, we are situated in this local place here, he finds what has been there all the time, only waiting to be found. But it is only the activity of sailing a boat, too large for its crew to draw it ashore, that will yield the concept of a landscape formation providing an adequate harbor. Without that activity, without the activity of sailing, seeking such shelter, there are no formations to be seen, since there are no eyes to see them. And I want to say a little bit more about this, or cite this, because this is true in general. It's not only true about concepts of harbors, it's true in general concerning concepts connected to the activity of sailing or fishing and stuff like that. The practice of fishing, or the practice of fishing within or around a coastal archipelago, like this, projects its own description of the landscape within which it is situated. It also, and this is important I think, it also projects its own objects, such as that of a harbor. To learn what a harbor is in this region, with its size and make of the fishing boats, we must also learn about fishing from such boats, about the landscape of this form of fishing and its weathers, about the situations where it is wise to seek shelter in a harbor, etc. And I do not think that we shall be able to learn all this up to a point, say, where we are able to recognize a harbor when we see one, unless we join in so as to learn the fisherman's craft. So this is my point. There's certain knowledge that is only accessible through an activity in this landscape, a landscape like this. And I have, of course, and I'll be quick, I have, of course, tried to find an example myself. And this is the, or two examples. This is the example of the me. What is a me? It is, of course, a triangulation point to know where you are at the sea before you have electronic equipment and satellites to guide you and stuff like that. And this was the first thing that my father learned me. You need to know the me. It's a triangulation point. You use two reference points on land to tell you where you are. Of course, the mountains or the landmarks and the sea bottom underneath are physical stuff. But the me only makes sense because you want to do a certain activity there. You want to fish there. You know that the fish is there or might come there and stuff like that. And I want, since my mom is here, she's over there, I want to give an example concerning her. And she told me when she first met my father and started to live with him here. And she heard him and my uncle talking when they come from the sea. She didn't understand what they were talking about. What on earth were they talking about? Until she realized they were talking about the landscape under the sea. So how on earth do you know the landscape under the sea? Oh yeah, we know it through fishing there. We know about rocky bottom that you need perhaps to avoid sometimes because it will destroy the gear. You know about what we call fish bottom. That is the place where it's good to fish, and so on and so on. And the point here is quite simply that not that these things doesn't exist mind independently. It is that it is through the activity of fishing that they are classified, understood, and becomes a part of the fisherman's cultural tradition that they transmit to further generations. So the culture of fishing and the landscape that is fished on, so to speak, becomes in a way one and the same and cannot be separated. So a part of what needs to be protected, if you need to want to protect the landscape or archipelago like this, you also need to understand this aspect of local ecological knowledge, that is how the knowledge is formed through the activity in this landscape to this form of activity. And I know as my experience is that many new people coming fishing, they don't know the me, they don't know the landscape under the sea, they just go to where the satellites tell them to go. And I want to stop this talk by saying that what's the relation between this landscape and the fishermen or their families and people living here? In my experience, the landscape is something familiar, something you become a part of. Often the fisherman just can't articulate by words this knowledge that he or she has. It is the knowledge, is the activity. And so you become part of the landscape through your activity in the landscape. And the culture in the landscape becomes the same. You belong to this landscape. And as Jakob Melø has said in this very interesting paper, The Two Landscapes of Northern Norway, as he has said, that the landscape belongs to those that belongs to it. Thank you.
Yes, I will follow up on that. So why do we start to talk about the local ecological knowledge? Of course, ecosystem-based management, in that framework, the local ecological knowledge is a core item, a core start. And it describes an active management, an active participation and integration with the landscape you are a part of. And
it kind of, in my opinion, also establish some kind of, at least, moral duties for the persons that come into these landscapes as new, as visitors, as contributors, like many of you are today. And I want to highlight 3 questions that I hope we can bear in mind. That is from our experience with working to try to protect this coastal heritage that we have in Fleinvær and similar islands in northern Norway. I would like to highlight the process of identifying the values, the intrinsic values that is the core of cultural heritage, the kind of values that Magne and other bearers of this local ecological knowledge actually inhabits. Because in ecosystem-based management, one thinks that this kind of knowledge and values actually is the success factor that make us protect the nature and, of course, the coastal heritage. So I hope you can think about how can each of us contribute to identifying these values for the sake of protection. And second, what kind of roles do different stakeholders? We have all different parts and roles today, and we have all stakeholders. Some more distant, some more local of this, but I think we all have a duty and also a right to try to protect what we see. What are the values? And what are adding to those values and what are taking away from those values that we have in Fleinvær? So we can, I think that knowledge about the values and what we have here is the essence when we come to protection. We can't protect something we don't know. Then everything, we will do things wrong, we will ask the wrong people, we will not include the right people in this work. So I hope you all can think about, when we talk today, what kind of stakeholder are you? What can you contribute for of knowledge in an ecosystem-based framework? What kind of role can you take? And I think this kind of table that Ave and Arnstein have is very good for sharing our knowledge about values. And when we started working on protecting Feria, I was surprised we had so many people here, from scientists, from artists, musicians, other fishermen, bird people, organizations, and I have learned something about how what kind of values they see. It's not every time the same as me and Jonas or Nina see it, or Magne, or whoever. But I think that is kind of, it's really interesting, and I think that is the core element to really explore the values. I don't think we can save the nature without exploring the values and the culture that we have today. So my last point, I'm a legal person, and yes, we would like to have some more protection here in Fleinvær to save the coastal heritage we have here, the nature we have here, but it's not easy because people are often not integrated in strong protection. National parks don't want people in it, as the national legal system works today. Landscape protection is kind of weak, cultural protection is kind of weak. If you have a building that is protected, it's okay as long as you don't blow it up. Feria was an example that you just move 10 meters, then it's okay to build whatever or blow it up. So I would like us to think about, do we have the protection measures that fits nature, culture, humans interaction? Do we have, how can we combine existing type of protection, and do we maybe need a pilot for a new kind of protection? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Linda and Jonas. Maybe I'm going to say something about the heritage plan for Gildeskål, something about the community plan, heritage plan. But I wonder if you could, since you talked about this concrete case, could one of you just use 1 minute to explain this about Feøya, the fight you have been fighting here for our international guests to know that?
Yes, it was some years ago, I think in 2017, there was a common idea from a Salomon company, a farming company, about they already, I think, bought an island here and want to take all the stone out of the island and leave it like an eggshell with just the around and put salmon up in this. This was a bird island, one of the few places with some you still can call a colony of birds. Of course, the reason for do this is just as idiotic to like put the cow in the sea, to put the fish on that. So the thing is that it's free to adaptate on that. So they saved not millions but billions of money in doing this. So we have a big resistance for all these years, still in effect, but there are some equal projects for the south that is became reality. I think happening, not so it's very bad. But I hope we have saved, I think we maybe have saved this island. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. I'm going to say something about, I have this, one of my hats is that I, through my company and together with Ave, I'm making a heritage plan for Gildeskål municipality, Gildeskål kommune, which we are in the northwest outskirts of. This is not a very big work. It is so that the Directorate of Cultural Heritage in Norway has for many years given some small money to the different communes, municipalities to develop heritage plans, to try to get the communes to be active in this. And Gildeskål has got some money for this from the state. The Directorate, it's Riksantikvaren in Norway, Norwegian language. So on this heritage plan, in Norwegian kulturmiljøplan, it's a very big project, but what we like to focus on in this plan is, among other things, we like to focus on the values and the knowledge, as you spoke about. The good news is that you already, with your fight from Fleinvær, you already have managed to influence the kommune plan, the area plan of Gildeskål kommune, which is now out, and there's a deadline for 15th of August to come with comments on the last version. But in this, it is actually focused on the cultural landscape or the cultural environment directly translated. And the reason for that, the two reasons for that, this is actually said that Fleinvær, the archipelago, is actually in the area plan of the commune given some protection is, first of all, that you have raised the question in a powerful way, and the other is that there has been done research from Professor Reidar Bertelsen from Tromsø, University of Tromsø, for many years. As Fleinvær is an example of this, the islands, and so a lot of the archaeology has been documented through that research. And these two factors have led to that the commune now described it as a kulturmiljø in Norwegian language, as a cultural environment or cultural landscape. It's not said anything more, but it has after all led to that, has an impact on the, I think, on the how they consider this the salmon farm, the salmon company idea to flatten this island to move the fish on shore, as you said. Gildeskål
kommune has quite big waters, and majority of those waters are actually open for sea farming, salmon farm, etc. There are different zones, this is a very powerful factor. A lot of investments and money connected to this. So it's the heritage plan. We try to focus on. In earlier heritage work, people focused on one separate building or one separate archaeological site or founding, but we try to see the whole landscape, try to focus on the value of the whole cultural landscape, and we try to see the connection between nature and culture, nature and cultural heritage. It's not a very big work we are doing because the resources are quite small for this, so it's a kind of start for Gilskog Kommune, I would say, to work in this matter. But we, because of the fight we have been doing from Fleinvær, and because of this research that's been done before, and the perspective that lies in this from Fleinvær, it's a good, that's why we want to highlight Fleinvær, especially in this plan. In a bigger perspective, nature and culture protection are melting together. Historically in Norway, so far in Norway, national parks have been dedicated to nature protection alone, and the cultural heritage in the national parks in Norway has not even been mentioned, even if the law says that it should be protected. But it has not, it's only been the nature values. There have been a small change in that. For example, the national park, newest, I think it's the most recent national park at Lofoten, peak of Lofoten, where heritage are somehow more in focus. There is a cultural heritage, but it's not very much. But there is, for example, said about the sea waters that are outside Lofoten and the national park. Part of the national park say that only coastal fishing vessels can fish there. No industrial fishing in those waters. So that's a small development towards what other countries that we should look at, like Estonia and other countries who have a more developed, I would say, national park system where natural and cultural heritage are equal, have equal value. Then it's so much easier to put forward the cultural landscapes focus. Otherwise, you are just talking about satellites, and the bigger perspective about knowledge and maintenance of this are not possible to focus on. So, if it's one bigger perspective that is not my field of expertise at all, but I could just mention that the UN agreement on nature protection, also FN's Naturavtale, which maybe Tim could challenge you to say a little. It gives some possibilities to maybe raise suggestions about more protection, also about the sea waters and islands, because there are need for Norway are obligated to have bigger part of Norwegian land and sea waters must reach protection. So it could be a possibility. As I said, it's not my special field at all, but I see there are some links there. And both there are two bigger perspectives: the heritage perspective, cultural heritage perspective, and the climate challenge are somehow melting together. So we see more and more that people are thinking this pairs of challenges, how to take care of heritage and deal with climate change, are melting together, and the same with culture and nature in itself. So I think there are some possibilities there. This heritage plan we are making is just a quite small thing, but we try to write in there some perspectives at least. And to repeat, I would like to repeat that your work from Fleinvær is an inspiration for that. And not many have been arguing and discussing that you have actually done here. Not many in this region have done that, and I think it's a very really good thoughts for the future. If it's possible to reach somewhere to some good thing, I don't know. I could just, but this heritage plan is under work now, and that we are we will finish this year. It's a plan at least. So there will be a hearing on this, and we will talk more to you local about what should be there. It should be integrated in the plan. The Gildeskål Kommune's area plan as such are already made suggestions for, and the hearing is 15th of August. So it's possible to raise, to forward some suggestions there if we find some good answers or suggestions today, we hope. I could just mention one thing that, and this is also not my field of expertise, but it's somehow there are some possibilities according to different kind of law system. For example, how to regulate the like leisure time use of or transport at the sea. You can, for example, even say that some zones are blocked for use of boats, so you can reduce the speed, for example. I know I've seen that Jonas, on behalf of Landholmen Island, have suggested this for the Gildeskål plan. And this is more, it's a bigger process to do that, but it's possible to do that. And like in the Oslo fjord, they have such regulations that you can, for example, protect the seabirds and that. You cannot in the communal plan. What the more interesting, even more interesting, is to discuss the rights of local humans to local inhabitants and landowners and fishermen to the fish and to all the waters around us. And that is in Norwegian law, that is not regulated. So it means that I, as an inhabitant here and a landowner, have the same right as a tourist fisher, to say, like for the fish, for example. There was just a personal comment approach, but the interesting thing, what is the law here? Christina can, I guess, add something about that later, but it's one part of the bigger picture. And anyway, this heritage plan, we try to focus on knowledge and value, because we have to little knowledge also. So this to develop the knowledge and to discuss the values is very important. So that's why it was very good to hear your speeches from two of you. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's give a hand to our panelists. We've got quite an amazing opportunity here in a sense. Such a strong group of people together. We've got a serious set of challenges, but we're even ending with an opportunity, maybe a message from this group here for the discussions before the 15th of August, as Einstein is saying, is really a nice opportunity. What is the message around heritage? What is the message around what Christine was asking about what can we contribute in our different roles of different stakeholders would be a nice thing to come with. When I hear you, Magnus, it reminds me of a number of conversations I've had with fishermen, with forest peoples and others in many contexts, people who are directly working in a different space, seeing massive changes going on, you know, in a generation's time, in terms of changing species, in terms of changing temperatures and whatnot, you know? But also often a very critical sense of the ongoing initiatives that aren't really responding to what's necessary. That somehow everything that's being put in place in plans and so on aren't really adapted. And at the same time, when we were in yesterday, we already felt also that there are things when you live and work in a seascape or a landscape, that there are certain things that can work, that are needed. So we heard also that indeed, rather than thinking about it as universal values that the landscapes, Jonas told us very much that in a very eloquent way, that landscapes are completely connected to practice, and we can't see one without the other. And it made me think how often, that very often in the plans we have, somehow that there is a distinction there, you know. Christine also mentioned, look at the national park plans. You set up a national park, and it's somehow dissociated from the start, from the practice and the people who live in that park, no? So I think our question is, can we actually propose something from this meeting that has that vision, a vision where the practice, the landscape and the practice and the people are together. And what does that mean? If you have that, which is not only philosophical but a very practical starting point, well, what then are the practical ways of thinking landscape, no? And thinking people together? So I think that's something that I would like to kind of throw that question out to our panelists again. It seems to me again, so step back, we have an opportunity here to come with a clear message. And if we were to say, we would like to propose something around landscape and practice and people together, what would then that look like? You know? I'm wondering, Magnus, if you have some thoughts about that for starters, and then I'd like to pass the word on to the others as well.
I don't think I have any answers on that. What we have experienced that we have been quite included in working with plans in Gildeskål. But when it comes to decisions made, if someone have an idea, they just go away from the plan, always.
They go away from the plan?
Yeah, like yeah. They just don't mind the plan. It's also about coastal areas. If there is a salad, it's better now, better, but being more like salmon farmers get what they want.
Okay, so you're saying the plan, you might have a nice plan, but when it comes to actually applying it, when something comes, you have a conflict, it's just put aside.
Always the capital win.
Capital wins. So what we hear from you is that if we want to have something that connects practice and landscape, we need something stronger than a plan, or the plan to actually be stronger anchored in something stronger. Christine, does that speak, how do you see that as someone who's dealing with land legislation and so on? What's necessary to have a stronger anchorage so you actually have something that's firm against threats from the outside?
I think I will make 2 points there. The one is then at the national level, or maybe also global. What do we protect? What do we plan for? And I think the potential in the landscape is very narrow today. It's only industry. And we cannot have industry everywhere, of course. But the way we are doing it now, with the coexistence every time, we are heading that way. And the UN had a really interesting report in 2022, Valuation of Natural Goods, where they said that we have to take a lot more values into to protect nature. For example, culture, heritage, the values for each species, the recreational values. So I think we have to ask some questions about coexistence. What does it mean, actually, on a higher level? And for the local level, I think it should be, when we are talking about protection, the potential in the landscape. You cannot develop like Håvard. One of his guests had made a map that said, oh, here is the forbidden island, because at Langholmen we tried to that it shouldn't be that many visitors in the eider duck season. And Magne and Jonas made a really nice sign. But they thought of it as a positive thing. It was the fun and forbidden island, and they did something positive with not visiting that island that day, or that period of the summer.
It became very positive.
It was positive. But how can Håvard add to the landscape and develop his business in cooperation with the local inhabitants if he's constantly threatened by something that takes away these values and this potential in the landscape? So maybe we cannot all be fishermen. I can for sure not fish. But maybe I think we have to see how can we learn from people like Magne and Nina and the people who are here about the potential. What can we do here that doesn't harm? And when we are talking about planning, I think municipality people sometimes are very narrow about these topics. That the potential in the landscape is always industry.
Economic.
And yes, but it can also be a really good economic in things that Håvard does, for example. or in the things that Magne does. He has also a ocean farming. So, and I will just point out one interesting, for my last point. Value is a research project that I learned about at the Arctic Congress. By the way, a really expensive happening, 5,000 kroner, my work paid, so, but it wasn't for everyone. That's something to think about. But they said that the value, they have research everywhere in Greenland and in Norway, and they couldn't see anything that suggested that it would come more people or more activity by industrializing islands, landscapes. They found the opposite, that it was less activity and less people living there when they put into industry. And that's something to think about.
Thank you. And thank you also, Christine, for the questions that you were asking us initially, your 3 questions. I thought they were extremely pertinent. And indeed, your first question was about recognizing the diversity values. And I was quite touched also by Jonas. Which was the example of, you told the example of your father and your uncle having a conversation and your mother couldn't understand.
She didn't understand. They were actually talking about the landscape under the sea. It was incomprehensible. It isn't now.
and I think it's such a nice image for us to think about how many of these important values and practices aren't seen, aren't understood, and we perhaps aren't showing them clearly enough, or do we need to show them and value them in a different way, or document them better? I'm wondering, is that a way to go to make a clearer case for these values and practices that somehow are under the sea, or maybe not seen, and need to be somehow valorized better? Is that necessary? Or is that worthwhile? In some cases, of course, people have gone through quite extensive efforts to map, to document integrated cultural values, natural, spiritual values that go together. Is that a way to sort of pilot a way of showing that these are actually living landscapes with practices and values that are in need of an integrated protection? I don't know. It's a question mark to you.
I would say that in Fleinvær and how we have worked on the FAO case, the documentation of the values has been really, really important. But we couldn't do that alone.
Right.
So Arnstein and all the organizations and scientists that has visited, I think Magne has guided a lot of them, and also Jonas's family. So the locals cannot do that alone, the documentation. We need help to put in words, the correct words that is understandable for national and global people like you. It has to be in a language that makes sense on a more systemic level. And how we do it? Should we make a song? Should we make a movie? Should we make a academic article? Should we write something in the paper? And of course, to learn to communicate with the commune or the municipality, we have written probably several hundred pages for the government, where we have tried to document the values we have here.
So that's a huge effort already.
Yes, and I think we have a summertime, you sit there and write, you don't want to go outside, but you have to do this work. Otherwise, it will be nothing to go outside to in some years. So I think how to document, and how could we learn as stakeholders to document in a way that suits us, that comes true. I think we need some packages on that, so it's not so any barriers. You do you, kind of. We need several.
Thank you. Arnstein, do you want to jump in on this? You're in the middle also between documenting and planning and so on. How do you see that from your angle? Do we need to document more? Is that it? Or do we need to, if Christine has already written 700 pages, isn't that enough? And how can we build on that? Or how?
Yeah, there's a lot of course, and it's a very, very rare thing that is in this region that people have been so involved. So it's more. I think there are still some values that need to be evaluated, maybe. But I think that it's more about presenting it and maybe get it into some public planning document. Mm-hmm. But there's also, it's like you know, to put it into plan is not necessarily doesn't lead anywhere. It's like Eisenhower said, to make a plan is nothing. To do the planning is everything. Mm-hmm. You know, about the D-Day in Second World War. So it's there's something there about how do you actually build competence also in the municipality. Mm-hmm. and around. So it's but you have done already a tremendous job here, and it's and I think that more to put together in a public document, at least it's a platform to so they can build on. But it's a huge process, of course. So and it's also about what kind of knowledge do we actually have? How do we understand things? We have not too much research on this. We have so it's really need research too, and the question also of the perspective of the research. What kind of knowledge are we actually seeking?
No, I was thinking from the presentations yesterday. We had one example that could be of interest for you. I mean, it's how you deal with risks. And I think it's very important in this connection not only to present values and universal values, integral values, but also the risks and risk analysis. And I think perhaps Marianne could tell a little bit how they are dealing with this on the maritime coast of Finland.
I was thinking to react to your speech when you were asked them, should we take this or make this and this. You have to make everything and all the time and all your time and ask for support. I think that this is the heritage issue, that it's never ready. There are always new threats, and you have to upgrade. You have to understand what is the political climate, what are the issues, and what are kind of keywords to integrate the work here. So it's yes, it's a passionate way, but I think that you are doing, and actually, so for many of us, this is kind of good example. You are doing already good work, but then somehow to structurize, I think that there is like different levels when you are looking for support. That in a way, on global or European, then you can say that it's the environmental support, and on the national level, then it's more like this, how you put into legislation and this kind of political support. And in the regional level, you are thinking about maybe land use and how these issues national are implemented, so that it's also to understand that how our societies function and in what way you can fight the support. But then again, I think that this risk management or risk analysis, that it's one part of that, and it, as we had yesterday, that it starts in a way by documentation, and as you say, this knowledge you have. By this knowledge, you also understand this, and you know the risks and strengths you have, and then to start to work how to manage those risks you know, and those risks which are in a kind of manageable on the local level. But it was very nicely you were telling this.
Thank you.
This knowledge of winds comes through the sailing.
Thank you very much. Hobart, you also wanted to step in before, just Hobart before.
Yeah, just two minutes in. Soon water time also. But I can just tell that most of our guests at the Arctic Hideaway comes from abroad, from big cities. I have revisited New York, and other cities, and see how very difficult it is to describe the value of that stay. It can take many years for people, but it spreads.
Yeah.
So it's so many angles. I have so many things that I want to express. It's so needed that we try to, in the whole region, make a new kind of tourism, which is based on nothingness, because it spreads. It helps. And in the end, perhaps in 25, 30 years, we will understand terms like degrowth. But there's so few people who understand degrowth in our region now. It's all about mass. Exactly. Lofoten, now Helgelandskysten, the coastline down here is coming. So we need knowledge at so many levels. So it's kind of impossible to choose the level you want to work on.
And sometimes we need to invite ourselves to, as you do, to step outside, to look back and see in value, of course, what we have. It took me 25 years of living abroad to fully appreciate some of my Danish origins and so on in a different way, and see the landscape values in places where I've grown up and so on, because I simply didn't have a context to look at it differently. And in a sense, one of my questions, and I'll jump to this gentleman in a second, but one of my questions is, how do we actually recognize and see these values, get the local authorities and so on to recognize that what is here is extremely valuable and are extremely important connections that should not simply be put aside. Should we have one quick investment project coming up, but are values and practices that have built up over the years? So that's a real question I want the panel to think about, but first let's hear this gentleman who would like to step in.
First I want to say thank you to Jonas and Kristina for their speech on local knowledge and how to protect it. So we are concerned about that, all of us living here.
Yeah.
I'm not a local, because you can say that you were intruded 30 years ago, you came from the mainland to these beautiful islands, but nowadays we think we are locals. It's very interesting about the mere. We are concerned about the mere, and as a joke, it was a joke. Svein had a few guests from abroad. I think it was from Denmark or wherever, and he went out with them fishing, and I shouted out to them, Svein, don't show the mess. And this was 30 years ago, and then it was meaningless. It was just a joke. But nowadays, it's more than a joke, because we are concerned about the history from guests, from tourists, and it's all along the coast is discussion about fish tourism and what it means. But this will not be a discussion here, but I just mentioned it's another point that is very, very important when you're discussing protection. And it is a discussion in Norway now. What about the allemannsretten, the all man's right? All man's right to do whatever they like in Norwegian nature. And this will be a main question in the years to come. How to protect allemannsretten will be under discussion.
Thank you very much. First of all, for bringing back the mayor perspective, and indeed maybe what would a heritage a landscape conservation strategy look like if it was taken from the perspective of the mayor as a starting point, no? In many places I've worked, many times we've taken a concept that's key to navigating and living in landscape and giving that as the name actually for a different conservation vision that's grounded in actually what people here see as way of navigating. So that might be something you can think about. But I don't know if you want Jonas to respond to it.
Yeah, I just want to kind of add something to that, both to you and to him at the same time, yes. But I start with you. I think I'm not a social anthropologist, so I'm not an expert on this. But I read a paper about some researcher in Tromsø called Bror Olsen, I think. Yeah. And it was about secrecy. how we kept, I don't know if points on the sea was mentioned, but I don't remember that. But why we keep things secret? Why we keep them secret? Why do we do that? It's just because you want it all to yourself or something like that. That could be an easy explanation. But I think it's more to it. If you are going to be allowed to fish there, you must show your competence first. Your competence in fishing. So your competence in finding the net also shows you have some kind of competence in fishing. And the competence in fishing means also has a moral implication. You know when to stop to fish. And it doesn't always apply, of course. It's not that easy. But I can say something. When I learned to fish with my father, he said, "Oh no, we cannot go back to the same place 2 days in a row, especially fishing for cod, because we need them to collect themselves and go back there. So they need peace." And that was just you catch more fish in this way. But you catch the bigger fish, not all the small fishes that should be left alone. So it's the secrecy adds to the protection in a way when it works well, at least. And then it's just a question about quantity. It's okay that some fish, but if everybody is going to do that, it's going to be the tragedy of the commons, and it's going to be no fish for nobody.
Christina. I would just reply. What was your name again?
Marianne.
Yes. It was my bad. I was not on point. So I would like to just elaborate a little bit on how we have done the work here in Fleinvær. We have had one of the writers in UN Nature panel in the garden of Nina, where we talked about the nature agreement and how it corresponds to what is happening here in Fleinvær and the Feia case. We have had national organizations and for example MDG here and have organized a big, what is it called? Like when you just show and discuss everything. And we have tried to, so that they could raise the question about the legislation about land-based aquaculture. And it led to a freeze, and it came on TV with the Oppsynsmannen. It's a really popular program about nature. And this didn't happen on itself. It was really a big job in explaining to national stakeholders what this land-based aquaculture meant in places like this. Cheap islands just brought it up. It was not in industry areas. It was like here. And so that is, and sometimes we have worked with the county. They have a really interesting landscape plan that gave a high value here, and tried to invite them. They have also been here. And at the local level, we have worked with the commune, of course. So we have at all times, and we have taken in landscape architects. We have been working with musicians and culture. And one of the sightings we had, it was a dancing experience, and Jonas' father's music was played, and local musicians participated. So we have, at every step, been really including of all kinds of levels and a broad stakeholder. So that is the success here, I think. So we have actually done that.
And if I can just congratulate you and commend you for that important work that you've been doing, and I also wish you get more time to go out in the sun too. But of course, as it's also something that can be extremely energy craving when you're constantly fighting, and even when your efforts to get the plans are put aside. So it seems to me, my humble opinion is, how does one actually shift now from constantly being in the sort of responsive firefighting mode, and take it to the next step. And one of those things, and I'll give you the word to Kai afterwards. I was so pleased to hear also that in the county planning we have a social anthropologist as well, because that also opens up for, we know of course as anthropologists how values are diverse, but also in a hierarchy very often, and how do we actually create more space for different values and so on. And I think that's that it seems to me that around the table here is a potentially actually something of a conservation alliance for that potentially could come up with a stronger vision, and that could go from the county level. And even, you know, Arnstein, you're such a humble person, but when you say, when you actually don't give the seeds also for including some of these ideas already in communal planning. Small maybe, but small is beautiful. I don't think we need to has to be already at the UN level. If we can actually show something concrete that works around a part of the island or several islands or Pelago or even further, that can build on. So maybe in this sense, I'll give the word to Kai now, but then I would like the group also to reflect a bit upon what they think about potentially moving together and working together to actually, you know, you've done this already, I think, many times, so maybe this is just reinventing the wheel, I'm not sure. But first the word to Kai and then back to the panelists. Yeah.
Yes, I wonder about these plans. You said now it's a communal plan, which has been re-elected. And afterwards, your heritage plan. It's the wrong way. The heritage plan should be before the communal plan, so that it could be interacted in the communal plan. Otherwise, this heritage plan is not worth so much, because you can, it's not so directive and you can do what you want. You can destroy a building and get permission to it afterwards, but if the heritage plan was before the community plan, it was stronger. Right?
Which connects again to the idea of vision and values first.
I can answer shortly on
yes.
that. And the reason is that the municipalities, the communes of Norway has been very late. They had this responsibility for many years now, for decades, but they have been very slow. They always thought that it's the state level, the regional level that deals with cultural heritage. But it's actually the commune who runs the Plan and Building Act that is the most important act when it comes to heritage. And they are just starting to discover that. And they haven't even discovered that they have responsibility for climate action either. So this is a long process to make it. And these municipalities are small, have limited resources, but I think they move, and the state level will press them and move them, but it's difficult. So of course you're right, it should be absolutely performed. But it will come in the future, and so we just have to fight them. This heritage plan we're making have no legal, or very few legal consequences. So, but the next time we make the area plan, they will integrate it, hopefully. So this is it's not perfect at all, but it's at least a dialogue about it, so it's good to move forward. Yeah.
Shortly about the Estonian experience, if we are speaking about heritage plan, many people are thinking it's a monument and it's a very high level. Let's speak about milieu values and its mean local values. And in Estonia, our experience is milieu values are different degrees. First, very valuable, milieu valuable, small valuable, and maybe not valuable at all, or not suitable in that area. And if you will have this kind, of course you need higher specialists, and better more than one, not only one. And it has to be done together with local people, of course, their knowledge, not in some archive in Oslo or Bodø. and that will help. One question, if you have this kind of plan, will you use it or not, and will local community use it or not? But it's great if you have this kind of difference of values done. And it's not a heritage value, it's let's say milieu values, and it's people get it more easily. It's not some very 1,000 years churches and to keep. If you look out, you can see very nice house, but not right materials or roof, and it's not suitable. And it's not that I'm against the owner or something, but maybe he didn't know. If you have this kind of knowledge, what materials are better, and also about paints. I see another house are painted with traditional red Swedish paint. Swedish paint is not red paint, you know. It's a traditional cooked paint, which is not so strong, which lasts maybe 10, 20 years, but it's very easy to overpaint. You have no problem to renew it, and that's very nice work in Estonia. We cook ourselves this kind of paints, and it's like community work. We sometimes come together and paint house, and there is not problem, not enough people to paint. There is not enough walls. We will paint too easily, too short time. That will be a problem. And yes, a couple of ideas about local values.
Okay, I could just spin on a little bit in Sweden. I mean, this is like environmental values. Of course, it's cultural, historic, or cultural values are part of it. But then we have other environmental values like biodiversity, species of birds, all animals, and also water management is becoming more and more important. So I mean, and these are actually a municipal obligation in Sweden before planning, and you can't make any plan before you have made these kind of analyses. So it's that's really, I mean, so any plan has to be based on all those issues.
Thank you, Tina.
I'm not ready to talk.
Okay. So I would like now to Arvid, please. And then just before I give the word to Arvid, I'd like all the panelists to think about two things that to better take care of the landscape and the practices and the people here. What are two things that you would put forward? Yeah, but I'll let you
Thank you. On my daily practice, I actually work exactly protecting holistically the values. I work in the Ministry of Climate in the Environmental Board of Estonia, and in every building permit, whatever nature use permit, we look at all of it because we protect both culture and nature in the national parks of Estonia. You are on the right path. It is describable, it is definable, and related regulation as it comes even to traditional knowledge and nature practice can be put into planning documents. So it is possible. And to put it in practice, it is only possible when it is done together with heritage communities, and they are landscapes of use, and the communities are looking after that. So when it stays somewhere on the paper, it stays somewhere on the paper. There are three points I just want to very briefly, like 3 minutes, point out that as it comes to values and regulation, how to describe holistic values, you put it into the documents. And they matter because you can go to court, to Supreme Court. The latest very, very fine things are from indigenous people from Finland, and they are cool there. This is the intangible aspects, tangible aspects, cultural seascapes and landscapes, complexes and areas can be described via concrete elements of that, via holistic view on that specific site with concrete roots and elements there that are of value, and the protection measures are related to typology of these objects. For example, this connection of the coastal villages and coastal life to the sea that cannot be broken, that might so easily be broken when you don't use sea houses as sea houses anymore. That's, that's done. This connection is cut there. The latest is the Stockholm case, when you put the mall there between two islands, you don't have this connection with the sea anymore. And that means that the seas and landscape should remain in low-scale traditional use. That is this local knowledge use, actually, what it is. And specific regulations go to specific concrete things. You have in Norwegian legislation specific regulation to sea houses or harbors, or that can be hay sheds, or concrete routes and settlement patterns, or traditional knowledge landscapes as in holistic. And then the second thing is this nature use, heritage communities' role and rights, which are as Norway has ratified Fleinvær Convention. It is rights to use, property rights, cultural rights, constitutive rights, rights to define their heritage, govern and protect their heritage, procedural rights, as it comes to free, prior, informed consent when anything happens in your home, at your home. And then it is about exclusive rights, about historical rights, and there is a big debate. Norwegian Social Democrats have been very, very strong in taking away these historical or nature use rights there. But in European Union context, we have, as to traditional fishing, we have historical fishing rights that can be put in force and implemented. As it comes to proposals or regulation on nature use on the coasts and waters, exactly these exclusive historical rights for the local people, you don't allow, for example, as it comes to the nature protection areas. I was so surprised that in the maritime protection areas there are no exclusive rights for locals, but any tourist can fish there. This is actually contradiction there, very big contradiction. And as it comes to, as you do have in Norway very strong historical rights lines as it comes to the legislation in general, like 19th century and downwards, you can just mention in the planning documents the need to respect the heritage communities and their rights, and that can already open some common ground for further debate. So that is my small brief.
Thank you so much, Arve. These are very useful, and it reminds me also of something that many communities representatives always tell me is nothing about us without us. No? They always say in these conversations, don't start planning without us if it's about us. No? So in that side, and that's about the procedural thing. So calling for having a clear protocol about how to go about things in any decisions that concern a landscape, that concern practices is a start.
You don't have to fight later. You can say no before.
So let me now go back to my question. 2 things for taking better care, and I'd like to turn the word to Magnus. So thoughts around that?
I think we have on the land, up over the sea, we have done a lot of work. We go to birds, to biology, geology, archaeology, and we have collected a lot of things about that, and we have these special things for the Fleinvær and several places, these aqueducts, like you can see in Givær. Yeah. It's a very special value. I think this is a little outside the question, but I don't think Fleinvær will be a kind of society with fishermen and farmers like me. I think that will be a museum. But I think it's very good that artists in a big have taken over the role of the fishermen. I think it's a very good thing. They could describe and have a relation to the landscape more than, especially this Håvard type of tourist. I think that is very good.
So this also connects to what Christine was saying, that we all have rights and responsibilities from different positions. It can be from artists, from a fisherman perspective.
I hope not a big tourism thing will be a disaster.
A big tourism here would be a disaster.
Yeah.
So also having a vision for is there a clear vision? Can I ask, from your perspective, is there a clear vision for the future of the islands here?
I think it's very individual.
It's very individual.
Yeah. But we have had a group that have worked with plans for several years. It's not been active the latest, but we made a project. We had presented for Givær kommune, and it's also includes Bodø kommune. So we also been there presented.
Okay.
Yeah.
So something to build on there. Can I turn to Jonas and Christina also, and then Hans Bang for comments?
I have a comment, I stopped my part of the talk by mentioning the concept of belonging to a landscape. No. And this is just a structural thing. It isn't set in stone who belongs to the landscape. It is more how they work in the landscape, what's the relation to the landscape that determines who will belong to the landscape. So it doesn't mean to suggest that, for example, only coastal fishermen belong in the this archipelago landscape. I just want to suggest that whoever belongs to it doesn't contradict the cultural values and knowledge that they have. So that kind of creates a framework. Oh, it's an abstract concept, hard to say this. That's kind of connects, that creates a framework for whoever will fit in, so to speak, even though we cannot say concretely who that will be. They need to kind of belong to the landscape, so we need to understand the landscape. So maybe since the landscape isn't a, of course, nature, everything is changing. Nature is changing also these days, maybe faster than it should. Then perhaps things also need to change here, but it mustn't change in a direction that destroys what was. It must add to what was, not destroy it, add it, integrate it in an organic and natural way, sort of. But I want also to comment that I hope that coastal fishing won't disappear, and I think we should work so that it won't disappear.
What's very precious in what you're saying is also that it's not tied into one essential idea of what this relationship is about, but it's almost like a changing dynamic of respect, new forms of belonging and new forms of being. And I think that opens up also really for what we see, of course, is in archipelagos like this that are changing demographies and so on. It's not one thing that's set in stone. I think that's very precious what you're actually identifying in the paper you didn't speak, the part of the paper you didn't speak about, but you're bringing it out. Thank you. Christina?
Yes, my dream is a pilot that explore some kind of protection that where the potential in the landscape is the primary goal. And in that case, I mean two things. One, that door for to develop the heritage part of it. I want fishers to come back here. I want it to be possible to harvest from the sea in the future. We don't know so much about the future, but I want it to be possible. I don't want a development that closes the door to our heritage. And second, I dream about a protection where you can explore new ways of belonging, like Jonas said, and that doesn't close the door to the heritage. This is, I think, a pilot project because I don't think it exists today because of the lack in some of the protection measures we have that exclude people or exclude culture or exclude some kind of values, or it's very fragmented. So I dream about an exciting project here.
Thank you, Christina. It's very concrete, and I remember a conversation when I met you on Zoom a couple of months ago. Also, that was also explained that this is actually also one of the major remaining coastal areas without salmon farming. And what was the size? What's the size of that? It's many square kilometers, no? I mean,
ask Magne.
Yeah.
He has the knowledge.
850.
But
yes.
The point here is that I would say that for this actually then becomes something of national importance. National importance to be able to demonstrate a different seascape of belonging. Maybe that opens up for continued fishing and other ways of living that's not grounded only in that. And that, when it becomes nationally important, what the kinds of pilot initiatives that you're take on a different importance, maybe even global importance. And that's and those are things that simply to say to harness the necessary political support also for saying that this is not simply a nice little local experiment, a dream of Christina. This is actually something that's nationally significant to try to develop and move forward with. And there we have had a lot. We were just talking about, I remember the conversation we had 2 months ago with you, Magne, as well, where I think maybe you were the one explaining the number of square kilometers here in the seascape without salmon farming is quite huge.
What we suggest for prevent for national park is 800 square kilometers,
which is significant. And the point here is that I think we were just talking about. Christine was saying we would love to pilot a space where this is possible, where new forms of belonging are possible, and so on. But this is not only locally significant, but also nationally significant and potentially even globally significant, actually, to maintain these kind of spaces. So this is just something I think would be to keep in mind. Einstein.
Yeah, just two things I can add. One is this about knowledge that is very important, and we are living in a very times that are changing faster and faster. The traditional knowledge is fading away, and I have a very concrete example. One small concrete example in the front of our farmstead, where the local people in the village and the other people around the fjord never fished because it's a growing place for the halibut. The last years it's been swarming with tourist fishermen there from Tatrumen and just 10 kilometers east. And this is of course it relates to open question, many kind of questions. The one is knowledge about it. The other is, should this kind of knowledge be registered? Should it be a secret? But how do you can actually register it, and this is kind of protection you could put into a plan, you know, and also at the communal level you could have this kind of nature protection for the sea. The bigger question, one man that have big perspective on this and sadly could not come because of his health is Professor Uwe Jakobsen, which teaches in Lund University in ecological economy. And he have raised the question in his book, could for example could we use the thoughts or the principles or practices from indigenous people in the how we regulate people's rights to use waters and land in our region. That is, without weakening the indigenous perspective, that we need to be strengthened. But because also the same principles are for all nature use. Maybe. So that was just I talked to him on the phone the other day. He was very sad he could not join, but he raised that perspective again. I just want to bring it in because I think it's a very interesting perspective. How do we actually regulate rights and the use for the future?
Yeah. And it seems to me, thank you so much. So it seems to me here there's a strong commitment to actually try to build up a space for different ways of belonging. An experience with constantly trying firefighting mode against initiatives that come from abroad. But it seems to me that the moment is right for then how can we take all the work that you have done with Bodø and Gildeskogøen already in building an alternative vision and actually taking that to a higher level with the county as well and saying we actually would be ambitious to try it rather than constantly being fighting problems as they come along, to have something that goes a step further.
My experience has been that all the way along in my lifetime since I was grown up, we have fighting every year for the boat going from back and from Bodø or mainland and for school. And all these fights we always lose. I still have this ferry though, but we lose the fights. And the school and the shop, and we have fight, and then we lose it because we got so few people left. So things disappear. So it's very difficult to go further.
It's challenging. Maybe I can open up the floor here to other people sitting around the table.
We just one remark. We just were in Giver Island. They are winning very well fights, so we just look like some miles.
I think we also win fights, but it's the nature is always losing. That is the presidency.
About economical, I heard many times word industrial, of course not industrial, but from you I heard that you want something income, but you don't want tourism here, but you want just visitors here. But it's a name, sustainable tourism, and you need to understand that if you want to earn here economy and money, it's sustainable tourism is part of economy. It's not industrial, but it's what works. And seminar here is also sustainable tourism, and then before you start your economical planning, you need to say that you need tourism, and but the sustainable way, sustainable tourism. That's from economical part, as the half part from my education.
Just a short comment. I think, you know, as a philosopher of science, it's an important point I used to learn to tell my first year students. It's a very important argument from David Hume in the 16th century. You cannot use the past to guarantee what's going to happen in the future. It's the problem of induction. Yeah. So I think, I share my uncle's perspective of these things being difficult. I think it's going to be that induction I will do. It's going to be difficult in the future too. But I think we are seeing the very fact that we are sitting here discussing this must count for something. It got to count for something. It must at least make it easier. And then just another point, it's we have tourism and then we have tourism. I think this concept of the Arctic Hideaway that Håvard has is an example of how to do tourism in as good a way as possible. Nothing comes for free, of course, but they are here to experience the landscape, not use it up. So they want to be part of the landscape. But of course, everything must be done with modesty. Even ecological tourism needs to be done with modesty, because this is a modest place.
You probably would be regulating the amount of tourists by the amount of beds you have here. That's one way of regulating the number coming. But I see no tents, I see nothing. Is that, common sense? Are you forbidden to? In Sweden you can put up tents anyways. How is it in Norway?
You can do it. You can put up tents, yes.
But not on private land where there's fields. But the necessary
but it's all this private land.
Yeah.
So it's not possible here.
Yeah.
Not in Lofoten.
Not in Lofoten.
They've made their own rules and regulations.
Okay.
So it's possible to use the local government and make rules and regulations as well.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Before I give the word to Marianne, can I ask, I forget your name, sorry, from the county, would you have a perspective on how, from a county perspective, what would be useful message or something from an archipelago like this to actually highlight these kind of alternative value visions and ways of taking things forward?
Well, from my perspective and my knowledge, I know very well the problems of fish farming and all the things that kind of are a problem for Fleinvær, and bird life and what's happening in the sea and so on. But and I think many more also knows that the coastline of Norway does have, the whole coast has similar problems. So, but it's how do you highlight your local problem? How do you highlight this distinctive problem of Fleinvær to be a big problem for a population and for people moving here, for keeping the whole social community alive and connected to nature. it's a big question you're asking actually. So, and I don't have the answer for it. But of course, to speak out through media and be upright and be connected to newspapers, whatever, to speak out what's going on here is very important. But it's very difficult to reach everybody, of course. Visitors will always come and they'll speak their mind. Oh, it's fine, Fleinvær is a beautiful place and so on. And they'll bring that back to people, and they'll speak to people and they'll say, oh, I want to visit Fleinvær as well. How do I get there? And then people start coming to Fleinvær, and maybe, you know, as people speak and talk all over, tourism happens. And you talked about, you know, how sustainable tourism. We do have something that's called besöksforvaltning. I can't translate it.
Visitor management.
Yeah, visitor management, and that's very important. I mean, how do you welcome the tourists? How do you limit the tourists for what they're about to do? And so, do you have rules and regulations for what they can do and can't do? And so on, tenting, all that. In Lofoten, there's a big problem with tourism, how to handle it, and just every human has its, you know, we have to eat and we have to get rid of what we eat and so on. Don't want to talk more about that, but you know, that's a problem in Lofoten, and it can, you know, come to the problem here as well, that, you know, there's no toilets for people to, and shall we build toilets? No, of course not. People must take their own shit back, whatever, trash they bring and so on. But if you start building and get, you know, doing all sorts of work to build toilets, build buildings, build whatever, so that people can come here. Then you're starting to do changes that will inflict on the local community that's very severe, and it will be a problem. So I agree with you, Magnus. You can't just welcome everybody. I mean, huge masses of people, and that's the solution to start up local tourism businesses and so on. That's not a solution. There must be other solutions.
Just remark about toilets in Finland. There are 3 very modern and good firm and getting bigger and bigger about ecological toilets, and it's not a bad thing to speak, and it's quite modern thing. And in Estonia there are several projects going on. And I understand people on island who historically had very bad memories about those not water closets, toilets, but now it's really different. And those ecological toilets with staff, they give after 2-3 years very good income, also in farming. It's not bad at all. It's and it's really keen to have a small seminar here. We have also in Estonia very good specialists. In Finland, they are how this kind of system works in local, that you don't throw to water or to sea where you are fishing. All that stuff that's not imaginable. You get a lot of tourists and it all goes to sea. Of course not. But it's all ecology, and it works very well if it's organized well. And there are ready solutions, but not ready for every case. You need those ready solutions to put in your island and make a plan here, and it's possible.
Thank you. Marianne, sorry I skipped you before.
Yes, I'm commenting also this everyone's rights. That in Finland there is an approach to try to include there also everyone's responsibilities. That when you are informing people of this, that they should have in mind, because this was something that the people had. They understood how they should behave in forests and islands, but it's not so clear enough today for all the visitors. And then I like more term of visitors than tourism. In a way, that tourism is something like business and coming and somebody is benefiting. But then when you are thinking about visitors, that they are visiting you, they are visiting your landscape, and you should be benefited. And your understanding that how it causes erosion or other issues you don't like, you should be the man to have the measures to manage these issues, because you will monitor all these negative impacts also. And then I was thinking this, that it would be nice to hear from you that how the planning authorities, how do you see what are the threats and risks, and how you are managing on this planning level?
Well, the regional level, which I'm on, is we don't, the local, the municipalities are the authority of planning. We are not the authority of planning in the municipalities, but we can help them in their planning. What's the best way to do things and so on, and we do that. And we meet with the municipalities, and we also have a hearsay in that you can't do, and we stop certain plans. We can say no, you can't do that. But for the most, the municipalities are their own authority in planning. But we have a democratic system which have politicians that aren't planners, and they'll say yes to many things, especially to businesses and so on. And that's the problem, and that's also our problem, because we can't do anything about that in the local governmental, the municipalities, what they decide to do. We can't override them.
Can you bring them to court? There's something.
No.
But you decide on resources. You can make analyses. You can prioritize.
But no. There's another level. It's a state level.
Yeah.
It's the county governor, and he can do more than we can do.
Thank you for that. Yeah, I would like to comment this belonging, ownership, and what is the third word goes around here. And it's very personal now. I'm sharing that I brought my farm like 16, 17 years ago, and I'm just describing how I changed my mind. And I already had kind of trying to fix it, and then just sitting outside, and one moment, I was really happy owning it. And finally I bought my dream farm. We looked at it for years and years with our family to have this dream farm close to sea and etc. And then I sit there and I understood that now I'm finally owner of it. And then it goes a year and the other year and third year, and just certain point there was a click of it was fuck or peeps, sorry, the farm owning me. And I just think that how the farm owning me, why I feel it like I'm the guy who's just fixing things and then going away, that I'm a visitor here because of the history. You take this farm, it's a 450 years old farm, the same name mentioned 400 years ago, and I understood my smallness on it. That there have been like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 families
who taking care of the place, taking care of the buildings, and I'm just a piece of it, who is taking care of it and going away. So I'm a visitor. The question is, I'm visiting it like 20 or 30 years. It goes happy. I'm visiting it 50 years, but I'm a visitor. The others are coming, and I have to take care of it when I'm visiting it. I think a change of mind of this kind of, I think then I'm listening and thinking what it makes it like this. It would be good that visitors who are coming here for 20 years or 50 years or 1 year or 1 day understand that they are actually, the places itself has values.
You need to take care of it.
And you need to take care of it. I'm always asking, what can I do here? It's not a question of 1 year or 50 years, but the question of what can I do here, because it not belongs to me. It's like old American Indian stuff, actually.
Thank you. Right.
You know, I know that phrase, nothing without us. No, nothing about us without us. Yeah. And it's all about collective rights from an indigenous perspective. I mean, sitting here and wondering who has the Sami flag up there, waving in the wind. Very nice to see. But if I should think, why would I want to visit Fleinvær? Because of course you have a local cultural capital. And I'm very preoccupied with the intangible cultural heritage. What kind of worldview do you have? I would like Magne to tell me about how we read the weather signs. However much electronic equipment you have on your boat, you need to know the nature, both the landscape and the seascape. You need to read the world, because you potentially meet a chaos power out there in the ocean, of course. So this is so valuable knowledge that I think many people today would like to have. They can't even find the northern star in the sky. So they don't, you know, when I'm down in Europe and I look up at the sky, I immediately know the way home. So you have so much competence in this, and you probably have stories about every hill, every stone, everything on this island. And it's the stories that make the landscape and the seascape come alive. But how to get visitors here to experience this and want to come back and want to tell about it to others, that's probably a very hard challenge. Yeah. So, but I'm sure you know how, yeah, a lot of kind of traditional knowledge you could offer to citizens, to Udeværinga and others who has lost all this concept. So I'm just saying, you know, the most exciting thing you could offer someone who is not living on Fleinvær, it's to come here and make them pay to experience the worst winter storms ever. To show them how you live through that. Yeah, that would be something for them to come home and tell that, you know, I have survived.
If they don't come home, they know.
Now it's just some ideas.
Arnstein and then Jonas.
Yeah, just a very short comment. It's actually something a little bit else, but which was commented from Tina earlier about the Swedish system of planning, where you have a very thorough planning as a ecosystems and so based for all public planning. What happened in Norway, it's interesting to compare Norway and Sweden. Sometimes I want to be Swedish, because when I see how a Norwegian public system are dealing with planning, because we go 30 years back in time to 1992, the Rio Convention on Sustainability and Development, Sustainable Development, was established or developed. And then, what did they do in Norway? They put on the state care money, so they hired in every commune in Norway, they hired, for up to 3 years, they had an environmental consultant, an advisor in the commune, without any responsibilities. In Sweden, they didn't do that. They just sent all planning, head of planning and technical service in Sweden was sent to education. And they said that you are now responsible for sustainable development. So everybody in the head of in Swedish communes, municipalities was sent to this, had the same strategy. And of course, after the state money in Norway gone away, most of the communes just let these people go, to other things. Just the biggest commune have these environmental advisors, and they were working some with nature protection, like in Bodø, there was some few left. But in Sweden, they have this other way of attitude. It's much more thorough planning. So they understand how that things are integrated. There was maybe I overdo it a little, but there is something there that is interesting, different. And in Norway, it's quite, we are kind of wandering anarchists, We are not very thoroughly in this planning. I don't know if Tim agrees, but there's something there, I think, that's interesting. You see, that's how heritage, for example, that the communities have been responsible for a very long time, but they hadn't understood that. It's very clear that they have been that, but and then the state comes with some small money, like to Gildeskål Kommune now. Please make a heritage plan. Sorry.
Thank you, Øystein. Jonas?
I just want to comment on something else, because I was inspired to do so. You mentioned that people down in Europe can't even find the North Star, which is true. But we can, because it's still visible here. So I have organized some stargazing tours in cooperation with the Arctic Hideaway. I want to say that one of the books that is very dear to me is the Burnham Celestial Handbook, and it starts like this: look upward, your inheritance. So it's the inheritance of all humanity is visible on the sky. And how do I know the stars? People often ask me, how do you know them? There's so many, I'm totally confused. I could see them when I was a child, and I started to bugging my uncle and my mom until they couldn't answer anymore. What's this called? How long away is it? Therefore, I took a degree in astronomy and physics before I became a philosopher. So also that started here. Because the night sky is visible. And I think that is just an example. I have noticed, I'm talking with Håvard of making a dark sky community out here. And that is, then tourists could come to just look at the stars. That's part of what they could do. Could do other stuff too. And that goes back to a point that Christina has often made to me, that we need another view on nature, where nature is valuable when it's untouched, when it's not used. That is when it could be most valuable, even in an economic sense, even in that sense.
Thank you, Jonas. We need a vision that's open to those values, but as Christina also said, we need a management system that's open to use values as well, like traditional use. So it's a very nice combination. The gentleman next to Marit.
Just a little comment from another place in the world. I've been living in South Africa, and there you have to have a special permit to stand on the beach and try to get fish. Because they have decided or seen that this lack of fish. And even you see sitting in the city, see the whales swimming out there, the usual road they have. And then they say ships can't go there. The ships go to another road, the big ships. So, I mean, if you're going to go that far, I don't know, but I mean, even in South Africa they do that. And here everything is free, they can fish forever.
Really, you don't have any payment or registration or... No.
It's only the amount you cannot export, unless you can go on the border, but there are no borders.
Wow.
In Sweden you need a fishing card.
Have to ask for.
We have counted every fish in
Every
the
fish,
Baltic Sea,
yeah.
actually.
You have to have
Name.
So.
So, first of all, just very short, we got 3 visitors from Estonia last year. They wanted to fish, and they were so sure they had to both pay and register to fish in the sea. It was interesting. It was a wake-up call for me. Why is it so that everything should be free here? That was a digression. I just wanted to quite practical towards there's the area plan of Gjelskål Kommune is out for hearing, and its deadline is the final deadline. You have already have influence on this plan. But 15th of August is that, and later this autumn comes this heritage plan. So I wanted to just say I like this idea you brought up, Christina, about possible pilot to go. Maybe it could be suggested because the Kommune has a big role here. And it's possible now the Directorate of Cultural Heritage, Riksantikvaren, have now launched a new focus on new kind of conservation heritage programs for Norway. And the first and biggest they have made is about focus on the coastal culture.
Okay.
And I thought there's possible of get funding from the regional level, different levels, and it might be interesting to go deeper into the case and look at what kind of related also to the UN Nature Agreement, what kind of protection, what kind of values, knowledge, values, and protection could actually be developed here. And I think that could be, for example, I haven't a clear thought about it, but maybe could there be an idea to suggest that to Gjelskål Kommune also within the deadline of hearing of 15th of August. That's one thing, and we will absolutely bring it in this small, sadly to say small heritage plan, but we hope that it will be full of perspective after all, and with the help of you. So that was just a concrete suggestion. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Arnstein, and I think that's a very concrete opportunity to think about. But also the kind of language that we heard today over the last hour and a half about actually having a concrete vision about the values that clearly are completely sidelined very often. Magnus, you told us that, and that can be discouraging, of course, if you're constantly being rejected and trying to have an alternative vision and values. It's tiring in the end, and as we heard from Christine, you don't get much time to be out in the landscape actually in the end, if you're constantly writing about this also. So I think that for me, you highlighted a very important thing that I've seen work in so many places, is that you actually try to get to a vision to a higher level, of course, and say this is not just a vision from here, from the island. It's actually a vision for the whole eco-region. It can be a vision for the county. And maybe in such a vision document, you could even have clarify what are rights and responsibilities of different actors in such a land seascape, no? And that could be a clear vision document that could also help when you have your role as good practice in guiding communes in their plans. So maybe it's also trying to aim for sort of shaping that kind of language at a higher level, because it, of course, in a seascape like this, it's also extremely connected. So it's not just one island, it's at 800 square kilometers and so on. So I think if that can connect to the kinds of opportunities you see at the national level, and to actually have a visioning exercise that's actually supported by then you might actually killing 2 flies with one go in a sense, no? You're going for something nationally significant, but you're also showing a vision landscape for the land and seascape. I don't know, it connects to these rights and responsibilities and so on, but showing that these values matter. So those, I think, are, for me at least, key take-home lessons from the hour and a half that we've had here. And I also learned a lot about that this is not a closed seascape, it's actually an open scape for new forms of belonging, and I think that's extremely powerful message to send. Because often you're being rejected, if you come with a conservation vision, you're being rejected as you're trying to retain something that's actually already gone, no? And I think that's not what you're saying.
It gets misunderstood, and also the concept of of local ecological knowledge is often misunderstood. It think it's just static or just backward looking. But in fact, it is the very building blocks for building the future that, of course, will be different than the past. Everything changes always.
I think that those are extremely powerful words. So with those in mind, I'd actually like to perhaps turn to you, Magnus, and just say if you have one take-home lesson from this conversation today that sticks to your mind and is important for looking towards the future.
I'm not sure what to say, but we have worked a very long time for a kind of protection. And we have this idea of this. You can see like a cake, a piece of cake. And how big should this piece of cake be? This 800 square kilometers are probably all too small. I maybe think we should start on Jonas and end the cake with rust or Værøy and take the whole thing and protect it. The whole from the aqueducts start in Jonas, Saltenfjorden, Saltstraumen. And it's a connection, a nature connection.
Yeah. So the grand vision. Thank you. Yeah. No, I think that's a strong ambition, but that it actually can start from here is beautiful. Ave?
That brings back to the very idea when I came to Fleinvær, that actually after long discussions on international level of how important it is to have heritage community-based management of the nature and culture and the holistic view that is all in the front line of international heritage conservation policies of IUCN, of ICOMOS, of UNESCO. When you come to Fleinvær Island and you have all those great ideas here, and people are thinking of that, and people want to make it happen. Actually, people should be happy, and local communes should be happy, and states should be happy, because that is exactly what international policies are hoping from the states, to have that kind of protection measures that are community-driven, community-led, that are big marinescapes together with community protected. So they should applaud to that, actually, and I am applauding to you, of course.
I think we should give a hand to our panelists, but just before that, I think perhaps if you were we were to support you as a group sitting around the table here, maybe one way to think of this is also getting that vision in, that you're saying connecting that vision from here to the island, but also into the mainland, but also, as I was saying, that this is actually part of what Norway perhaps is committing to do internationally and globally. So in that sense, there's a red thread there, which is interesting.
The thing is, the special thing from my point of view, is we are into an ecological catastrophe in the coastal area. And since the most is under the sea, we don't see it.
We don't see it.
No.
So
it's an ecological, we can see it by the birds that is disappearing. But so it's a red alert.
It's a red alert situation, and we talked yesterday also about, of course, the global biodiversity crisis, and here's an example of it also.
Because I've been through this period. I started fishing with my own boat in Rust in '78.
Yeah.
I think it's nearly 50 years ago. Yeah. So it's very depressing to see.
Yeah. And in fact, if you would have a strong dossier like this to revert that through a grand vision, this would be something that could be. I've seen in many countries how regions and counties could take pride in taking a lead.
We can say we say in different foundations or communities or organizations, we say no to new things like bigger nets, more small nets, harder fishing, new industrial like fish farming. But it's we always met with this: what shall people live on?
Yeah.
We need light in the house around. So that's the argument we are met with. The ecologic perspective is never or nearly never a part of the result.
So maybe also showing that the value about also ecology and so on is not invaluable, but extremely valuable also from a livelihood perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, Fleinvær, especially and Ivar, this with birds, it was very important for income. It was more than half, and the birds is gone. And it's not that they have gone slowly; it's progressive. It's like this, or more like this. It's go very fast. Last 2-3 years, I think of the seabirds, half have disappeared this last 5 years.
It's striking because if I may compare, I'm living in Switzerland now, and sometimes we see the climate crisis and so on very nearby, and a bit like here, where you see the biodiversity crisis and climate crisis up front, and so on, and we're often not reacting to it enough as we should, but there is an urgency also to react to that. And in that sense, that might justify also this being a collective effort. Again, it's not simply a nice thing to do. It's actually urgent to react in this respect and respond to this. So my feeling, my question is, now the next steps would be, if something like this starts from here, how do we then actually build collective ownership of this as being something to actually join? No? A real, from national level actors, from the county level and so on, to take collective pride and ownership in an initiative like this would be the next step. I don't know if it's too premature for right now already to set an agenda for trying to get actors to come, for example, to the island and have a real conversation about this. What would be the practical next steps for a pilot project, Christine, to take off? I guess these are conversations that we can think about over lunch, but I think the urgency to act and the need to actually get collective action is clear. And I think we should give a hand to the panelists for this, and I think you have a well-deserved lunch after this.
Maybe somebody wants to say
unless someone wants to react to this prior to that.
Maybe a few words?
Yes.
Is it possible for us up here to learn something about what's happening in Oslofjord? There are two big engines, boats going too fast, like too noisy. They're not short of time. The birds get scared. They've been fishing too much for ages without doing anything. The pollution is extreme. If they built this island into a fishing farm, they said that the pollution coming out of this fish farm is as much per day as from Bodø city. Can we accept this sort of things? So, I mean, they have lots of arguments in Oslo. They started too late, but we might find some good arguments there. Okay?
All right. Well, let's give a hand to the panel. I mean, the question is open, I think, for Oslo. It's clearly something, again, I've seen also the stark contrast between different regions is something to keep in mind. And very often exactly shows what we sometimes tend to valorize in the regions we live in. So, I think our time is we're a little bit beyond time. We're supposed to finish at 1, is that correct? 1:30. 1:30.
1:30. Speeding up.
They were speeding up.
Am I actually? We're only 1:30.
We have 20 minutes more.
Okay.
Do you want to eat? I see.
No. I misunderstood the schedule. But that's completely fine. In this case,
when we don't have.
No. If in this case, my real question is very practical. It is if we were to think about having a collective ownership around something like a vision that would take this forward, what could be concrete? I'm sorry, I'm fighting sound-wise with my young neighbors. But what would be concrete next steps that could be done to actually get people to meet together? Is there a particular moment? Is there a particular way to get people together around something like this? And it's difficult to drive it only from here. So this is also a question to how do we get the county on board? How do we get the municipalities on board for such a vision?
We work with these questions every day.
I know.
Every day.
Yeah.
A big spectrum of it. So it's very difficult to go into all the details and so on. So, but of course, the problems can be held in a conference or so on, but you have to invite the right people, to talk about these different problems. So I don't know. The county governor should have been invited here,
Would be a key person to invite.
Yeah, would, of course.
We tried.
Yeah.
I have a proposal.
Yes.
You could establish this Fleinvær seminar every year.
You do it on a regular basis?
Yes, on a regular basis, and invite different persons and seminars on different subjects.
Do we have prototype?
Yeah, on a regular basis. So just the next 2 or 3 years, everyone knows about the Fleinvær seminar, and they will invite you. And get another seminar room, perhaps.
Make it, Marit is saying, make it impossible for politicians not to come. Yes.
It's a good idea, but I think it's too late. We have to do it faster than that.
Not only we need to do something faster. What can be done faster? Ari.
When you want to make some, for example, if you want to go on with national park idea that we actually have been proposing some years ago to the local government, you can actually, when people come together, is not to have seminar. People come together when there is a target.
Yeah.
They are against or in favor, as simple as that. And when you are, for example, going this community-based, community-led initiative of national park, you can go with that proposal up to the state level, because the state level protected area with special regulations as to the community rights, heritage community rights of nature use in the area, as simple as that, which is cultural landscapes where we have the analog in the case of Vega Islands. It is not like something specifically pioneer in Norway, because we have Vega Island as an example there already of the cultural landscape, specific site management. And that means that you have initiative group where you involve all relevant important stakeholders and rights holders and go on with that initiative and have these meetings with a target and concrete time plan for that. Okay. When it is because it can be community initiative to say state level protection. It doesn't matter that when local community says no, but probably it applauds too, because at the moment currently marine protected areas are this state obligation to increase marine protected areas. So actually the state of affairs have been changing since the time you've made that application to local communal level in the first time, and maybe it wasn't so. I know that in Norway you have this planning that is strongest in the sense, but actually nature protection, as it comes to nature protection, it is still state level saying no there. So maybe to go on with that initiative in that respect, not a yearly seminar, but something with concrete target and involve stakeholders.
Yeah. Maybe also, indeed, in the same spirit, you could actually have a small task force that could develop a concept a little bit more elaborated, 3 to 5.
You have elaborated concept actually.
There's another proposal, perhaps about this NOR team, and it happens to be my son who has created this NOR team with teams, and it's 10 years now going on in different teams. You can invite them here to have a session and a performance here.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, they talks about against capitalism and big economic interests and yeah, and our musicians and dancers and really have a big performance.
Yes. Just a little thing which is somehow possible if someone can do it. The last few weeks, everyone in Norway anyway know that through Paris is a big river running. And they try to make it clean for swimming because it's Olympic Games, not because they wanted to clean it. But they anyway done an effort, and probably it comes some results after that because it's river from Paris and all the way to the sea, right? Get clean. Something to learn there maybe, because I get all the world's eyes on it and we need Oslo eyes on it.
Exactly. You mean the Nordic regatta here in swimming?
I believe very much in you have done a very solid work from before, and I believe to put this into concrete action that is, as you said, Magne, I like very much this idea from Rust, which has a lot of nature and cultural heritage values, and through Saltstraumen to in the fjord, and preferably to Gjønes, where we all have been, most people have been. It's a interesting area to discuss together, and I think that there should maybe some organizations that are the nature organization are easy on board, and maybe ICOMOS can be a part of it formally. It's an initiative. I'm not a member of board of. I'm a leader of one scientific committee in Norway, in ICOMOS Norway. But I think it's easy to discuss and bring it up. And National Trust will be there, and it's possible to put up a kind of task force and develop this more. I think so, and go to the state level. I think it's. And then the municipalities will fill in, I'm quite sure.
I remember that actually Saltstraumen has been under discussion as possible that UNESCO site because of its high natural values. It would have been there, but you know, it is connected with the specific boats, specific fishing traditions, and so on. So it is in that sense. I don't know. There is this UNESCO potential here too, you know.
Yeah.
And that, of course, could be one of the action opportunities to explore in a task force which concrete avenues to pursue. But indeed, it sounds encouraging, because if other actors can join this, it really has a powerful potential. But in concrete terms, how to get a task force like that up and running? Yes.
We have tried to lift this higher up.
Yeah.
We have this group working in some years with this heritage plan for this area, what we call the YSAM, this project. And but I felt on kommuneplan in Bodø and in Gillesgard, we met this Salmon lobby.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's, they protect the sea in their own way.
Yeah.
So that has been a very big trouble to get further, especially between politicians in Bodø and Gillesgard. That have a lot of meeting with salmon farmers after they have talked with us.
That's a very particular value vision, of course, but it seems to me then that if a group of alliance or task force that could work on strengthening the proposal that you have already been developing and building on that would be interesting. So if Arnstein, you're saying there are a number of Norwegian, both national and local level actors that could get on board.
That hasn't been involved before, or we have just partly be, but it may be possible to broaden it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the cultural heritage come on board in that.
And would that be something to be hosted? Where would that be ideally be hosted? A first meeting of a task force like that, to sort of engage in that. Would it be here on the island again, or would it be more strategic to have it on the mainland, or what would it look like?
I guess it's best to have in like Bodø.
In Bodø.
Yeah. To get this best is here, of course, but to get the right people
to come.
Yeah.
I'm thinking that the environmental issues are perhaps the most alarming issues here. I mean, and I think there are plenty of people so aware of climate change and effects. I mean, to enhance those risks and threats should be something that could, I mean, really get quite a big community involved in this issue. I don't know how much the salmon industry pollutes, and I mean, just to raise that awareness and how it affects the birds, the fish here, and so on. I mean, I think information is crucial.
Because when it comes to salmon industry, it's of course very powerful. As Magnus said, that we have this example from the neighbor island in the north, called Bodø kommune, where they has all levels of institution. I said no, and after 2 years, the government decided to say yes to a farm there, sea farm. So it's at the island of Fleinvær. So recently happened. So it's of course in the same. So it shows all scientific and all environment directorate of environment said no to them, but the government said yes after 2 years.
Did you stress how it affects all the islands and just spread the information about the effects of it?
Yeah, it's a powerful.
It is a separate target, I think.
Yes, I think it's linked. I think you have to use everything.
With the focus when going towards national park, you don't have to explain at Ria how dangerous it is salmon, because that is again, all Norway.
I think the challenge is also that the outer forces, for example, with the salmon park is that they split it to local central. Here in Fleinvær, the half I think, I don't know, love it to want it here, because then the boats go to Bodø. Then we have light in the houses and all this stuff. So I think this is the main challenge, that you split the.
It's a challenge.
Yes. And how can we do this also? When I come here to this seminar, I thought all the people from Fleinvær was gathering here, but they're drinking coffee there. So we are not the community. All people are against it, and all have the same meaning. There's different meanings.
I will just comment on the Feria case. The commune had never received so many answers from people here and from the organizations and everywhere. It was over almost 60, and of them there were three that was positive to this. It was overwhelming negative. But you have to take into account that not everyone in a small community like this want to fight over Saturday coffee about these issues. But the letters that was written from, we were surprised ourselves that so many that we didn't know actually wrote against this, that belonged here or had summer houses here or had family here. And the support also was enormous. So the Feria case was overwhelmingly negative against the plans. And the commune then thought that, okay, then we shouldn't do any industry in Fleinvær. So at the moment, there are no industrial places that are regulated here in the commune plan. So I don't agree that this has been that splitting. Of course, there are someone that thinks that we will get more boats, but the salmon industry has its own boats. They don't use the public boats that much. And as I said, the Nor Value research program also shows that there aren't that many workplaces either. But my point, I just want to make that, is that we have all heard about echo chambers. Are everyone familiar with that? Yes. And today, the answer for livelihoods and how we are going to develop our communities is always, the answer is more industry. More and more. But okay, then do it some places, but we cannot do that everywhere. We need some rooms, some refugees for the heritage, for the nature. We need a pilot that allows us to have some protection against the common, in my view, kind of boring way into the future. So I don't say that a protection pilot here should be addressed everywhere, but we need some framework that includes people, culture, that allows the local people here to, for example, fish and learn about our seascape. We need those rooms. We need a protection room that doesn't always talk about coexistence with industry. We cannot have industry everywhere. And that is the point. I don't say that we cannot have it anywhere, of course, but some places have to take another turn. And I hope that Fleinvær and the 800 kilometers can be a room to explore what other options have we. And I'm not the only one. There have been NINA, for example, our big research community. They have actually written in the sustainability plan for Norway. They said explicit that we haven't done any research on how the green transition should go. What is it? How can a green economy look like? We have to find out how can we live without doing the same everywhere. We cannot coexist with everything everywhere. Then it will all be the same and we will not have a heritage and culture anymore, I think. So we will see, and I hope Fleinvær will stay as it is.
So I have Arnstein, Marianne, Jonas, and then Ave. For quick comments each, please.
Yeah.
Arnstein? Marianne?
I think this, yes, you're very right, and this is something, it's an elementary change that we have to start to think on these terms, that to limit and to select and somehow to select a way. And this is then the county and state level in a way to think about the planning, where we somehow set limits or borders. This is not acceptable. We have to and try to make it perhaps. This is something also that you should make in a cooperation with perhaps with other island villages, or to make it like a project to understand that how, firstly by planning means, measures, to make this kind of definition of these areas, and then think what does it mean on more local level or with your measures. But this is really, I think that it's important, and it's our way, because this consumption society where we are, it has to change to a more really sustainable, not like commercial sustainable, really sustainable ways. And this is the ways to cope with this.
Thank you, Marianne. Jonas?
Yeah, and I think Christine said it all, and you also, but I think it's important when we communicate the values we have here. They are local values, but they have a global meaning.
Yeah.
You can, what we perhaps or hopefully will be able to do here can spillover effects or could do other places, because although I'm not an expert on this, but I know that almost it's not controversial anymore. The whole scientific community agrees with you saying that, okay, the consumer society is what creates the problems doesn't mean a damn thing if it's oil or something else we're doing. This enormous rate of consuming, using up nature is what's creating the problems. It just takes new forms. If we're going to do industrial society and build just on that in a green transition. So we need laboratories like this to investigate how nature can be valuable, or even most valuable, even economic sense, when it's not used in this way.
Exactly, just to continue, that there are indeed transition future scenarios. Actually, when we want to have future, we must stop the economic growth, as simple as that. And secondly, first time in United Nations COP meeting, there has been declaration last December on how valuable are local cultural heritage solutions for tackling with climate change and with coping with climate change. So it is exactly what all the globe and the world needs. It is not a small refugium, you know, but actually all the globe needs to make that turning point.
Thank you. The last comment.
Just a little short one. In Norway, we have elections every 4th year. To get job as a politician, you have to say that you're going to get jobs for the people. And that's one of the problems. If it comes a salmon farm here, they get some few jobs, and they get elected next after 4 years. So we have to get the politicians to think another way before they get elected, not only thinking about jobs. And why not jobs like we have today?
I just visited one other island in Gildeskål where the jobs were mostly foreign workers.
That's true.
Right. I would like to invite Arnstein now to say closing remarks. Yeah.
Yeah, the closing remarks is that we are, first of all, very grateful on behalf of Heritage Dialogues, projects, and festival, and workshop, seminar week. I would just say, first of all, we are very happy to be allowed to, that we have been here as guests at Fleinvær, that you take your time and share of your perspective with us, with international guests. And thank you to international guests who have been with us up to 1 week now, traveling around in this southern region to discuss from different perspectives. It's been very meaningful, and we are very happy for that. And we will follow up on this. I suggest concrete these ideas that we will, when it comes to the Fleinvær and bigger region and perspective, that we will talk very fast again, so we can do something also before the 15th of August. Ave was nodding her head, yes? So
yeah, we must be useful to you.
We must be useful to you, yeah. That's important. So then I just say that we are now we're having lunch, and then after that, 3 o'clock, there's a concert.
Yeah.
2 concerts.
2 concerts.
Yeah.
Locals and foreigners. So Howard with his company and from this island, our host. I'm very happy that he has, in summer is so busy season that he has a concert here. And then Villu Veski, my great friend from Estonia, jazz musician, and he has his own small island, Muhu Island in Estonia, where he has held jazz festivals already more than 25 years. Please come back and enjoy.
All right, let's give a hand to everyone.